Hi, and welcome to my Chess Basics series. Today we are going to look at how the queen moves and captures. And compared to all the other pieces we have discussed in our previous tutorials, we only have one queen. And at the start of the game, it stands next to the king in the middle of the first rank. The queens stand opposite each other, and we know which side of the king it is placed by the color it stands on, because the white queen always stands on a white square and the black queen always stands on a black square. Sometimes this is referred to as queen gets her color or queen on color. Now the queen is the most powerful piece on the chessboard, but let's just mention it hasn't always been like that. The way the queen moves has changed during the centuries. At one time it could only move one square diagonally, and later it could also jump like a knight once during the game. Today it can move vertically and horizontally as the rook, and also move diagonally as the bishop, and that's a powerful combination. There is no limitation to how many squares it can move. It is only hindered by the end of the board or other pieces standing in its path. And just so it's mentioned, it cannot move like a knight anymore. Let's remove the black queen and place our white queen on d4. Let's repeat this. It moves horizontally and vertically as the rook does, and also diagonally as the bishop does. So right now the queen covers 28 squares on the chessboard. Here we have a made-up example, but it demonstrates how powerful and far-reaching the queen actually is. We have a lot of possibilities here, so if you want to pause the video, go right ahead and do so. If not, just follow along. Right now, the queen is protecting the white pawn here on b2, because if not, we have a rook here on b8, black rook, which can capture it. At the same time, we have a pawn on f4, which we are protecting because there is a black bishop on h6, which can take our pawn. We are protecting our bishop here on f6 from capture because we have black rook on f8 ready to strike. The queen is also dominating this diagonal going up towards a7, and this will in time help our pawn here on a6 to move to this square and be protected. We are also preventing this pawn here on g2, the black pawn, from moving to g1, because right now we are dominating the same diagonal going all the way down to g1. What happens when the pawn moves to g1 is a tutorial on its own, but on the board here there is still one more thing we can do. We can capture this black knight on d6, and there is nothing stopping us from doing that. Now there is no black piece which is protecting the knight, but in our scenario we just can't do that, and we haven't gotten that far in our chess lessons yet. But this demonstrates all the things the queen can do when it's on the board. Let's concentrate on the left side of the board. We have 4 black pawns and our white queen. And we already know from our second tutorial how the pawns move, capture, and protect. The queen captures by occupying the square of an enemy piece. In our case, by placing the queen on the square which is occupied by one of the black pawns. The correct way to do this would be to get behind these pawns, where you can attack them, or if you could attack them from the side, because pawns can protect forwards only. In our example, we'll go for the pawn on d7 first, and then we can start attacking. And right now, we could either move the queen here, 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 to be able to capture it on our next move, or here if we wanted to prevent it from moving any further. So we have many options. And as you can see, these 4 pawns have no chance against the queen. Here's our last example. Now, if it had been any other piece than the queen, it would be very difficult to stop these 4 pawns if you're in front of them. Because right now, these are not isolated pawns. They can protect each other up to a certain extent. Now, right now, we are in a position to capture this pawn on b7. And now it is protected by these 2 pawns on its side. We move our queen to c4 and put pressure on this pawn on c7. And it has an option to move to c6 and be protected by this pawn, or c5 and be protected by the pawn on b6. But right now, because of the way the queen moves, we are already stopping these pawns. This one has no option now. And the pawn on b6 has to move, otherwise it will be captured. And by doing so, we are able to place our queen on c5. And none of these pawns can move now without being captured. This pawn here on c6 is protecting these 2 pawns, but it cannot protect itself. And we'll take the pawn here on b4, because right now, if this pawn moves forward, it will be captured. And if this pawn moves forward to d4, it will be captured. I could show you how the queen moves in about 30 seconds, but there are plenty of videos out there that already do that. If you don't know how to play chess, I'd like to give you a little more in-depth explanation. Until next time.